Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. I am Marianne O'Dowd. I'm a member of this fellowship and your service leader today. Welcome to everybody who's joining us at home as well. I extend a special welcome to those of you who may be with us for the first time or with us for the first time in a while. We're glad you are here. It is our custom to invite those who wish to stand and introduce themselves so that we may extend a special welcome. We'll start on the right. Any new visitors who wish to, and it's not mandatory. It is not mandatory.
Well, I'm here with two of my wonderful neighbors. Y'all know Judy Lyons, she's a friend. And Maureen Kopczynski, it's her first time here. And she was very eager to come just to find out what we were all about.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Anyone else care to introduce themselves? Okay. Well, we hope that you will join us for coffee and conversation following the service. And after about 15 minutes, we'll come back to this room for our talkback session with today's speaker, Kathleen Smythe. Kathleen is a professor of history in the history department at Xavier University in Ohio. Her expertise is in African history and colonialism, and she's done extensive field work in Tanzania. She likes to incorporate community and bodily engaged learning into her classes, and one of those classes is Bicycling Our Bioregion. That brings together intellectual, social, and kinesthetic, I practice pronouncing this, kinesthetic learning. The title of her latest book is Bicycling Through Paradise, Historical Rides Around Cincinnati. And I think somebody should adopt that title for Door County. She recently started taking classes at the Earlham School of Religion, that's a Quaker seminary, in the Master of Arts in Theopoetics and Writing program. And you will hear from Kathleen shortly. Please check that your cell phones are turned off at this time. Are there any brief announcements related to the fellowship or its members that you would like to share? And if so, please stand or raise your hand and the microphone will find you. Terry, right here, front row.
I'm Mary Smythe, and I'm Kathleen's publicist. The New Perennials publishers have a pamphlet series labeled Common Sense for Global Crises, and you can go on the web and you can download, search, read all of these. One of them is Local Food, More Hope by Kathleen. And there are a couple of free copies out there if you'd like to take a copy. And then there are some copies of her second major book, out there for sale with a little tag on it. So feel free to look, feel free to buy. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Anna Knapp, and I'm here on behalf of the Sustainability Task Force. You may have seen a survey being sent out in Sarah's e-blast. Please do take 5 to 10 minutes to fill it out, and we really need your input.
Anyone else?
Hi, Judy Broad. I just have a question. Will we get a response that you received the survey? I'm having problems with my emails. I don't know who's getting what. So we will not get a response? No. So then how do you know if we get it?
Just a quick head start. Earth Day is coming and trees are coming, and I have been over and seen hundreds and hundreds of them in Jeff Lutz's yard. It's absolutely incredible. 250 of them are mine and will be ours. Anyone who would like to help plant trees at Bay Ridge, we're planting on the 5th, the last weekend of this section. Hopefully they're hoping to put in 15,000 trees. Not mine are only 250. And I think that's going to be a chore. But he says it's not. He promises it's easy. So anybody who would like to come and participate in a planting of beautiful white pine trees. And I saw them, I thought they'd be sticks like what the kids bring home from school. They're not, they're just beautiful. And the roots are there and there's soil, they're wonderful. And so please come and participate. 3 to 5 on May 5th. I even don't know what day it is.
Anyone else? Cindy?
Good morning. I was asked by Bob Lindahl to make a little speech about what the fellowship means to me in honor of our upcoming capital campaign, or not capital, annual campaign. So here's what the fellowship means to me. What I love the most about this congregation is the people. Every one of us seems engaged with life in many and vast ways. We are in the community, helping people, helping the environment, participating in the arts, making a difference as a congregation and as individuals. And for the last 26 years, we have come together here on Sunday morning to care for, encourage, and share ourselves with each other. All of you mean the most to me in this congregation. Let's support this wonderful fellowship for another year of continued strength, advancement, and community and personal benefit by pledging to the spring campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, let us begin our service. And please join in singing hymn 360, Here We Have Gathered.
Come and set me
I will now light our chalice and share some opening words adapted from Erica Hewitt's Bold and Courageous Together. With full hearts, we affirm our relationships with one another. We recognize our agency and our connective power, and we accept our responsibility to be bold and courageous. We light this chalice, symbol of all that we are, all that we have done together, and all that we will be as our shared ministry encourages those within and beyond our walls. Please join in reciting our unison affirmation followed by the doxology. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. This is the time in our service when you may briefly share joys or concerns that fill your heart or weigh heavily on you. And keep in mind, the service is live and it is recorded for future viewing. And please do not share anything about somebody if you've not received their permission. Do we have any joys or concerns? In the back.
It is my joy to be here this morning with the Northern Door Threshold Singers, or at least a trio of the Northern Door Threshold Singers. We've been on a hiatus since the pandemic, and Beth had seen that today's service had the title, "We Are All Just Walking Each Other Home," and that's a song that our group has sung at the bedsides of those at the threshold of dying or illness. And the other, so this is part joy, part announcement, so I'm going to take up 2 times the time. It's a joy also that the idea for this group came from the fellowship, and probably 12 years ago, Joan Shields had a program, and she brought the Circle Singers from Hope Church in Sturgeon Bay and talked about music's role in providing comfort and also just accompanying us through all stages of life, from birth, celebrations, to death. And it was her message and just the very powerful sensation I got that day. And then I heard an NPR interview about the threshold singing movement, and then with encouragement from Michael Brecky, we founded our own group, and we are at least at the early stages of talking about getting back together to sing again. Did I cover everything, ladies? Great, thank you. That is fine, thank you.
I received a phone call this morning from cousins in Louisville to tell me that my maternal cousin is at that threshold and expect that it's to pass any day. I wish you could sing for her, but if you would all keep Jean DeVere in your thoughts and prayers.
I have good news, ladies, from Helene. Do you know she's coming home tomorrow?
I promise this is the last time you hear from me today. This is Anna Knapp, and I have a great joy. Tomorrow night, both my daughters are going to be recognized for their service project in Girl Scouts. Didn't know I was going to get emotional about this. This is a very significant award. Ellie's troop is being recognized for what's called the Bronze Award, which represents at least 20 hours of service to the community. And their troop made a significant, like I'm talking thousands of dollars of contributions to the local food pantries. So significant work that their troop did, and they will be recognized for that. And then Mellon's troop, it will be getting the Silver Award, which represents at least 50 hours of work. And for that, their troop had to divide up into two groups. And one of them made birdhouses for land trust properties. So you might be seeing those installed. They're for wood ducks and kestrels. And they had to learn how to use power tools and all this really cool stuff. And then the other group did some significant cleanup at Camp Cuesta. So both of them will be up on stage at the Widener tomorrow getting their awards. So those Girl Scout cookies are more than just empty calories. They are community service projects. Thank you.
That's it? Great. Thank you. It's good to end on a high note. We will now have this morning's offering, and just a reminder, offerings can be made online at uufdc.org. The reading I share today is by Chef Ellis Waters, and before terms like farm to table and slow food were part of our vernacular, there was Ellis Waters doing what she has been doing for a long time out in Berkeley, California. And as you would expect of a world-famous chef, Waters has some interesting things to say about food, and she also has some wise words about community. And this is one of her quotes, affectionately known as "Pass the peas." Our full humanity is contingent on our hospitality. We can be complete only when we are giving something away. When we sit at the table and pass the peas to the person next to us, we see that person in a whole new way. We will now enjoy a special gift of music shared by our Threshold singers, followed by a moment of silence before our speaker.
We are all just walking each other home. 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 We are all just walking each other home.
Good morning. The second reading is from Ram Dass, from whom the beautiful music was just taken and the title of the message today. He is well known as a spiritual leader, died just a few years ago in 2019. And this is the statement that I wish to share. I would like my life to be a statement of love and compassion And where it isn't, that's where my work lies. I am happy to be back, and I really appreciate the attention to weaving together a message that is so synergistic. So thank you very much for the singing, and it just feels like there's a nice curation that's gone on to making this service, so I really appreciate it. I'm going to start with a story. There's actually going to be a lot of mini stories in here, but and the story comes it's through many iterations here. So the story comes from Mark Nepo's book, Drinking from the River of Light, about inculcating a life of expression. And in that book, he tells this story. Legendary blues musician Mose Allison tells the story of a prominent white educator who was studying the culture of the Hopi, the desert-dwelling Native American tribe of the Southwest. He found it strange that almost all Hopi music was about water, and asked one of the native musicians why. The old Hopi man put down his wooden flute and explained so much of their music was about water because that was what they had the least of. And then he told the white man, most of your music is about love. So in that vein, I think one might add that much of my writing and activity is about hospitality. So I'm going to start with a bit of a conversation that I had 30 years ago, and the context will become clear in a few minutes. But if you're lost, it's okay, you probably should be. So I'm the first person speaking in these few lines here. Where did you go to look for a girl? Formerly, we went round to look for girls. When we found them, we sat on one side and they sat on the other side. And we asked them in turn which boy they liked. If one agreed, they shook hands. We laugh. Did they love just by looking at each other? Yes, it was just like that. After this, it was not yet marriage. One had to go and ask about the character of the girl. The elders would not advise to marry if, for example, a certain girl was a thief or lazy. So I'm in my mid-20s, living in southwestern Tanzania, and learning about the Fipa people and their history for my doctoral dissertation. In 18 months, I conducted over 200 interviews across much of the northern portion of the Fipa Plateau, sandwiched between Lakes Rukwa and Tanganyika, not so far from Zambia or the Democratic Republic of Congo. I was curious how their lives had changed as a result of Catholic missionaries who had been there for many years and had declared 100% success after 2 generations of evangelizing from 1880 to 1945. Side note, success equals you've been baptized. I was drawn to this work for a number of reasons. One of them certainly was the need to learn about their lives so as to construct a narrative that reflected their experience and added to scholarly understanding of the colonial experience in Africa. But I was also on an individual journey. I was, as many scholars do, also seeking integration and wholeness for myself. What did I need to know about the lives of rural Africans in order to be a better North American? What did I have to learn from those who had other cultural truths and realities? In order to do this work, I had to talk to people in a language that they were comfortable in, and certainly other than my own, and to listen, really listen to what they were telling me. I learned Kiswahili in graduate school, and I used it as an intermediary language to learn Kifipa, the local language, when I got to Tanzania. But language was really just part of the equation. Listening is often not easy, even in one's own language and culture. We do not learn to listen in any formal way in our education. If we're lucky, we have role models in our families or among our friends of people who do listen. I learned some things about listening from a fellow graduate student. She was ahead of me in school, and she'd just returned from her field work. She showed me some of her interview transcripts and the way she sought to draw out her interlocutor and allow their ideas and train of thought as much as possible instead of her own. To allow the person with whom I was speaking to direct the conversation as much as possible, she counseled, insert my own direction as little as possible. This is not as easy as it sounds, as I had an agenda. I had a set of questions that I wanted answered. But it was very quickly clear that if I let them talk about what they wished, my data would be far richer, even if it was not exactly what I was looking for. So here's another snippet of conversation, and I encourage you to kind of listen for me striving to do this. There are two words in here that won't sound familiar, Kasu and Chala, and those are the name of two villages in the area. So again, I start the conversation. At what age did you get religious instruction? Formally, we were baptized at about 10 years of age, and some were even 12 years, already big girls with breasts. We followed instruction for 3 weeks. At Kasu or? At Kasu, we were already going every day. It was there we were selected and came here and followed religious instruction for 3 weeks. Here at Chala? Yes, it was then that the teacher selected, so-and-so, you go for Holy Communion instructions. At Chala? Yes, at Chala. There were many people. We were very many. The mission station was only here. So just repeating back that last phrase or words I had heard from the person with whom I was speaking was often enough to encourage them to continue telling the story they were telling, rather than the story I hoped they would tell, to bring to life a certain understanding of the meaning and import of their own experience. So here's a final snippet, and in this case, the woman I'm interviewing begins. When we were working for the Catholic Sisters, we got 400 shillings a month. Was that much money? Yes, very much. I bought clothes and everything, pins, shoes, and some of it remained. I gave the remainder to Konto's wife to keep it for me. When my father came from Ampanda and took some of this money, I cried. It was feast day and I wanted to buy clothes. I cried very much. I felt much grief. No buying clothes, I say. No buying clothes. I felt very sorry and spent the feast Christmas without clothes. Interviewing was just a small part, though, of the listening project that was my historical and anthropological research. My work there was really a dance of accompaniment, of merging my agenda with theirs. Learning from and about FIPA speakers often involved walking to their homes miles from where I was living and sometimes spending the night, and an interview of an hour or more. The walking was an integral part of the experience, as I learned much by being out and observing people in their fields and around their homes. The paths were very narrow, often surrounded by fields or bush, and forged over decades to connect people to markets and to churches. Almost always, the interview was followed by a meal, and the meal was often initiated by somebody rounding up a chicken in the yard. So we had to go from that state to eating it, which gives you a sense of the time involved. I often also replayed the interview so we could all hear what had been produced. They loved hearing their own words again. Without fail, my host, after hours together already, would give me a push home. The verb sindikiza means to escort in Kiswahili. But when someone gives you their time for your work and then walks a few meters, sometimes even a kilometer or more with you as you return home, there's something more going on than just escorting in the common North American understanding of the term. Many have been deeply moved by Ram Dass's declaration, we're all just walking each other home. But it's often been interpreted as accompanying each other through the end-of-life process, which is important and great. But in this case, I think the resonance between Dass's oft-quoted statement
and the Kiswahili verb helps us to see we can accompany each other home long before the last stages of our lives on earth. It is such a beautiful sentiment that it seems to shortchange its power if we do not consider that our lives are a long journey toward home, not just in terms of death, but in terms of discovering who we are and the promises we have to keep to ourselves, to each other, and the earth. My Tanzanian acquaintances, in literally bridging the distance between their home and mine, were enacting Das's revelation. While each of us has a self and a way of being and giving in the world, that this being and work is separate from anything is an illusion. In turn, I think I helped to bridge the distance by learning their language, not fluently, but good enough, and coming to their homes and listening to them. When a Tanzanian walked with me from her home toward mine, I felt the hospitality of our time together envelop the landscape through which we passed. It grew big. It was material recognition of our common home and our similar need to belong with each other and where we find ourselves. They were perhaps recognizing the long distance I had come, both geographically and metaphorically, to be at their home and speak to them in their language. But they also sought to continue the dialogue I had initiated, and they were as interested in listening to me as I was in listening to them. As with so much of my experience in Eastern Africa, this practice illuminates something we've lost in Western civilization. Usually an invitation to visit has discrete boundaries, both in space and time, marking territory and belonging. Guests come to my home as interlopers, and then they cross some void to return to their home. The invitation and acceptance might be generous and often are, but the generosity is bounded and scarce. Usually little more than what was promised. Dinner, drink is delivered. In Tanzania, meals, escorting back home were also delivered. So from the beginning of the process in the land of the Fipa, arriving at home to being given a push toward mine, there was no strict timetable and no strict agenda. If one were to reimagine the dinner party in light of my interviewing experience and Tanzanians giving others a push, guests would be escorted at least to their cars, leisurely, extending the evening celebration and the space each of us calls home, and the opportunity to listen to each other's stories and experiences. If one were to reimagine one's life in light of my interviewing experience, we would be urged toward a fuller humanity of giving and hospitality, as Alice Waters has urged. We are all walking each other home or giving each other a push. I love the phrase. Not just at the end of our lives, but every day of our lives.
Thank you, Kathleen. Please join in singing hymn number 12, O Life That Maketh All Things New. Again, thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Beth and the Threshold Singers for today's beautiful music. And as we head into fellowship time, please keep these words of Carol Seaberg close to you. Between the dawn and dusk of our being, let us be brave and loving. In our little passage through the light, let us sustain and forward the human venture in gentleness, in service, and in thought.
Life is
Thank you for joining us.